Hi Dreamers, welcome back. I did a drugstore haul a few weeks ago and I am starting to roll out some of the reviews of those products, and I know that one of the ones that you guys were just really interested in hearing about was the new Covergirl Healthy Elixir Foundation. So I have been trying this out for about 3 weeks now. I've tried all different kinds of methods of application, and so I'm here to give you all of the info. Okay, I have this first off in color 725, which is buff beige, which is about where I usually fall in the Covergirl range. There's not a very wide range of shades for this particular product, but you know, it kind of matches with the rest of the Covergirl line. I did find that in every store that I went into that had this product on display, they only had about 5 shades. Currently, there are more shades on the website. This has vitamins E, B3, and B5. It also has a broad spectrum SPF 20 in it. Usually, I have a very hard time wearing foundations with SPF in it, depending on what type it is, because it usually just doesn't work for me very well. Okay, so first off, this says that it is a lightweight, full coverage makeup. It hydrates, provides a complex of SPF, vitamins, and an antioxidant, and that it is oil-free. So first off, I'm just going to start by telling you some of the ways that I have tried applying this, and I'm going to show you a video of the way that I found that works best for me while I tell you about that. So first off, I have found that the primer really doesn't make a big difference with this foundation. I've tried it with white-based primers, I've tried it with silicone-based primers, I've tried it with just a moisturizer, I've tried it with no primer except for my regular skin routine, and it doesn't really seem to make a difference with the application. What does seem to make a difference with the application is the method of application that you use. You'll see in the video that I am using a brush, and I should not have put it away. This is a crown brush that came in BoxyCharm last month, and it is like those Artiste brush. It's just one of those flat paddle brushes. I found that it works just as well with any kind of very dense foundation brush. You don't necessarily need to have like an Artiste brush or an Artiste dupe. Just a really dense foundation brush will work. I found that if you use any kind of sponge with the application, what happens is you shear out the coverage so much, and it picks up so much of the product that you just end up with sort of barely any coverage at all. If you use like the Real Techniques buffing brush or something that's a little bit softer than that, you're going to get a fairly decent application, but it's not going to be quite the coverage that you would expect. Okay, so with application, this is a very slick formula. It's not watery. It does have, I would say, about a medium thickness consistency to it. So it's not watery. It's not one that kind of run down your hand. But as you start applying it to your base, it is very slippery. And if you saw it in the demo, you can see that it's very streaky as you apply it. And it does take quite a bit more work to get that really worked into the skin and sort of in place, because it just wants to move around on you. So once you get it in place, and it is what I am wearing right now, I will say that it is definitely not a full coverage makeup. It is lightweight, I do agree with that claim, but I would say that it is a good, solid, medium coverage foundation. I can still see my real skin underneath. I can still see minor blemishes and things like that, so I do not consider this to be a full coverage foundation at all. With the fact that it is so slippery, there's really sort of 2 options that I tried as far as getting ready to apply the rest of my face on top. What I have chosen to do is I have chosen to go with a setting powder, and I would recommend a loose powder versus a pressed powder. I've been using the Milani Prep Set and Go transparent face powder, and this is a pressed powder, but it is a very loose, sort of buoyant type powder. Can a powder be buoyant? But it is a much looser pressed powder than a very tightly pressed powder. So I would recommend a loose powder, just a very light dusting, and then I would do a little bit of an extra can I talk today? A little bit of extra concentration around your nose and chin area with that pressed powder to really just kind of dust on a little bit extra, because those are the areas that are going to be your problem areas throughout the day. The other option that you have is if you don't want to put any kind of powder on top of it, you really like the way that this foundation looks immediately after application, I would wait a good 15 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes before applying anything else on top of it, and really let it set in and dry down. Otherwise, as you start to apply your other products on top, with that slipperiness and the moving, it's going to move a little bit under the rest of those products. So either set with the loose powder or wait for it to completely set in. The look of this foundation, I really do like the look of it. I think that it looks very healthy. I think that you're getting a really good, solid, medium coverage out of it without it looking cakey. Really, the only issue that I have had at all with any kind of cakiness has been right on my upper lip line right here, where I have, a little bit of extra of that facial baby hair, I guess, than I do on the rest of my face. And I generally have that issue right there with most foundations that are a light medium coverage and fuller coverage. I generally don't have that issue with sort of like lighter foundations or BB creams. So that's not really of concern to me, because I do have that issue with just about every foundation. I think that it looks very healthy. I think that it looks very natural. I think that it does give you a nice glow. And I do think that this would work for all skin types, because even though it is a very slippery formula, and if you have oily skin, when you first put this on, you're going to go, this is not going to work for my skin at all. But set it with a powder or really let it completely dry down, and it will work just fine. It is really not going to be a problem for oily skin girls. Now, if you are super, super oily, then I would recommend going ahead and using your regular like mattifying primers or anything like that underneath it. It will still give you that nice glow on top. This is where I start to get a little bit iffy on this foundation. Like I said, I've tried this many different ways. And one thing that I've noticed is that if I do not set this with the powder, or I do not let it dry down completely before I start applying other products, I have much worse wear time. I'm only going to get about 4 to 6 hours out of it before it starts to break down. Now, if I take those couple extra steps, I dust with a powder, or I really let it set before I start applying other things, that I find that this lasts really pretty darn good throughout the day. I do, like I said, I would do a little bit extra sort of right around the nose area. Those are the areas that I find are breaking down on me, and I do find that it wears off a bit on my chin. Now, I do have that issue with a lot of foundations, because I tend to kind of do this sometimes throughout the day, and so I tend to kind of wear some of that off, but this is a little bit more of an issue with the rest of my foundation. I find that, if I come back after a 12, 14, 16-hour day and I look at my face with this foundation on my cheeks, on my forehead, everything looks great. It's sort of right in this area that everything has really broken down and kind of worn off. It doesn't wear off ugly, though. It doesn't look patchy and flaky. It just kind of starts to disappear. So really take those precautions. I would also recommend using a setting spray on top of it as well, especially if you've used that powder to set it, because with this foundation, while I find that setting sprays do not usually increase the longevity of my makeup, they just decrease the powdery look. I found that with this foundation, a setting spray does actually increase the longevity of the foundation. That's really how I've been able to get 12, 14, 16 hours of wear out of it, is dusting with a powder and then putting a setting spray on top. So I think that this is a really good foundation. I'm quite enjoying it. For days where I have had a little bit of skin issue, I have wanted something that's provided a little bit more coverage, but this is a great solid medium coverage foundation that gives you a nice glow no matter what your skin type. I haven't found it clinging to dry patches. I haven't found any of my oils shining through. I guess, the universe just decided that I needed to have all skin types so I can test out this foundation for you really well. But like I said, I really do enjoy the look of the foundation. I do enjoy the wear time that I get out of it if I just take those couple extra steps. The only real big complaint that I have with this foundation, other than the shade range, is this lid. This lid is super cheap. It doesn't, I mean, it barely kind of clicks on. I mean, you can see how loose that is. And so even just sitting in my top makeup drawer, I have had issues with this lid coming off. I would not travel with this. I think that it would crack immediately. But I do believe that, yeah, you are able to kind of close this down, so that might be an option so that it wouldn't pump out, but then again, you're going to kind of waste product doing that, so I don't know. But you do get 1 fluid ounce in here, just like regular drugstore foundations. I think that when I got this, it was around $13, so it is, well, no, I want to take that back. I want to say it was around $11, so it is kind of in that higher price range of drugstore foundations, but really that's kind of where they're all sitting now that I, go anytime I go look for something new, that's about where they're all sitting. So I would recommend trying this. Just know that it is going to take you a couple of extra steps if you really want the longevity out of this foundation to get that nice, healthy, glowing, medium coverage look. So yeah, I give it thumbs up and a half. Do something different about the lid, Covergirl, please. If you guys have any questions about this foundation, please leave me a comment down below and let me know, or if there's any other foundations out there that you are curious about, I am more than happy to track those down and test them out for you. I really don't do first impressions. I like to do full reviews, so leave me a comment down below and let me know if there's something specific that you would like for me to review. Otherwise, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and that alert button so you don't miss anything that is coming up in the future, and I will see you next time. Bye.